The ruling African National Congress has a new leader. Cyril Ramaphosa narrowly beat his rival Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma for the party's top job on Monday night. The contest has been closely fought and has exposed the glaring divisions in one of the continent's oldest liberation movements. CGTN's Yolisa and Njamela has more.
We declare Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the African National Congress.
Ramaphosa was then swept to the stage by supporters who firmly believe that he will return the ANC to its former self. Cyril Ramaphosa was voted in by a margin of 170 ballots. He takes the reins from Jacob Zuma. Zuma's chosen successor, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, failed to make the cut.
After a fiercely contested election, it would seem like the ANC has opted to ensure unity in the organization by electing leaders from both sides of the divide. It was a bitter battle that saw comrades pitted against each other.
Top 6 is a mixture of leaders from the two factions that were stuck in the run-up to this conference.
We fully accept the democratic process that played itself out here. And on behalf of myself and also those who are in the campaign of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, we want to give our warm revolutionary congratulations to Comrade Cyril and to every one of the top 6 officials that have been elected.
I think the message that branches of the ANC are sending to all of us is that we must stop the battles, the fight, and unite so that we are able to be a true representative of the people of South Africa.
Under Zuma's presidency, alliance partnerships with Labour and the South African Communist Party were severely strained.
We are looking forward to work with them to reconfigure the alliance, to update its mode of operations, to make sure that we are able collectively to fight corporate capture of the state, to fight corruption, to revitalize the ANC and to reconnect it with its mass base.
As ANC leader, Ramaphosa is most likely to become the country's next president after elections in 2019. Yolisa and Njamela, CGTN, Soweto, South Africa.
Well, let's take a look at the career of the new ANC president. Cyril Ramaphosa is a powerful politician and an astute businessman, as CGTN's Rennie Delcam explains.
Born in Soweto near Johannesburg in 1952, Cyril Ramaphosa has a long legacy of leadership in South Africa's liberation struggle. Ramaphosa was jailed by the apartheid regime during his days as a student leader in the 70s. He obtained his law degree and was elected as the first Secretary General of the Congress of South African Trade Unions in 1986. He became a household name in South Africa in the early 90s, when he played a leading role in helping to negotiate a peaceful road to democracy for the new South Africa, and was also instrumental in drawing up the country's constitution. In 1999, he failed in his bid for the ANC presidency and left politics to build his business empire. He became one of the richest men in Africa, with stakes in global companies McDonald's and Coca-Cola, as well as mining enterprises in South Africa. In 2012, he returned to politics and became deputy president of the ANC. 2 years later, in 2014, he became deputy to South African President Jacob Zuma. Unlike Zuma, Ramaphosa managed to steer clear of scandals and controversy, until South Africa's infamous Marikana massacre, in which 34 striking workers were gunned down by police at the Lonmin Platinum Mine in August 2012. Ramaphosa was a director at the mine and was accused of putting political pressure on the police. Many activists and opposition parties alleged that he had the blood of the Marikana miners on his hands, an allegation which he denies.
So there was no violence from any members? I'm not saying that there was no violence. There was violence during that strike. A number of people died.
Today, his supporters see the billionaire politician as the answer to South Africa's problems. The ANC leader who will save and unite the party and bring much-needed economic transformation to the country.
If we are to succeed as a movement, we must follow in the footsteps of those leaders who have come before us. We must follow in the footsteps of our leaders like Nelson Mandela, like Walter Sisulu, like Oliver Tambo.
Late, great leaders of the liberation movement who were committed to an African National Congress determined to make South Africa a better place for all its people. Renard Alcom, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, let's discuss this further, and we're joined by political analyst Aubry Mashiki in Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us. What's your reaction to the election of Cyril Ramaphosa as the ANC president?
Well, what happened with yesterday's election is that the two dominant factions, which came in support of Ramaphosa and Dlamini-Zuma, were neck and neck. And this explains why the result was so close. What it means is that the party is split in the middle, and what it means for Ramaphosa is that he will not be able to preside over the entirety of the ANC, because the component of the ANC that did not vote for him will reject him. But if you look at the 5 leaders who will surround him, 3 of them come from the Zuma faction, which means he is going to be hemmed in and may be a lame duck president of the ANC from day one, which effectively means he may actually become one of the weakest presidents of the ANC in its history.
Well, that's interesting what you're saying there. You think he could be one of the weakest presidents in South Africa's history. Where do you think it leaves South African President Jacob Zuma? What role will he be playing going forward?
Well, first of all, I think it is premature to talk as if Ramaphosa is the next president of South Africa. The ANC must still win the 2019 general election. There is a lot of unhappiness about the ANC, and there was a hope that in this conference, what the ANC will do is to vote for change. And as I said, they didn't, because the Zuma faction did quite well, which means it is also going to be very difficult for Ramaphosa to implement what others are calling for, that is for him to pressure the ANC to recall Jacob Zuma as head of state at the moment, and that is before 2019. The problem Ramaphosa faces is this. If Jacob Zuma is still head of state by 2019, there is a very strong possibility that yes, he was elected ANC president yesterday, but may not become head of state because the majority of voters may reject the ANC.
So by what you're saying then, you don't think that Ramaphosa would be able to marshal enough support to push for a Zuma recall before the 2019 polls?
Well, there are two things that are going to divide this ANC even further. First of all, Ramaphosa is under pressure to make sure that the ANC and its government tackle problems such as corruption effectively. Any attempt to do so will alienate the supporters of Jacob Zuma, and therefore that will cause further instability. And also any attempt to recall Jacob Zuma as head of state will divide the ANC and cause instability. In the context of an ANC that is split in the middle, it's always going to be very difficult for Ramaphosa to take decisive steps.
Well, what you're describing there seems to be obviously a bit of a conundrum. What does the ANC have to do to regain favour with a somewhat disillusioned electorate?
Well, what the ANC must accept is that it is in a deep state of decline, and must therefore worry about the quality of decisions it must make in order to get out of that period of decline into a golden period. Now, the imperative at the moment is for the party to achieve unity, because if it fails to do so, its image crisis is going to worsen even further, and therefore in 2019, while it may win a relative majority, it may fail to win an absolute majority. I do not think, though, that this ANC, even under the leadership of Ramaphosa, is equal to the task of meeting the challenges that it faces.
Okay, well, on that pessimistic note, thank you very much. Aubry Mashiki there in Johannesburg. He is a political analyst.